Okay, I'm not sure that if it is getting transcribed or not somehow, but I just had this quick thought of a thing which is specifically designed and related to AGI, I would say, and it's actually connected with language for quite a while. At least the thing I'm gonna explain now. I'm not sure that if it's gonna make sense too much, especially people who are working in pre-training, reinforcement learning, uh, trying to understand how biology works, how evolution works, and because it is connected to all these things, so people might have their own opinion, certain things about, and in the domain they are experts in. So my point of view will be a complete different from a polymath perspective who actually don't master at anything, but also it's not like I don't have any understanding, like zero knowledge of it. So like I have few things and trying to connect dot together to think of something pretty decent in my opinion to this point. So what I'm coming at is AGI, artificial general intelligence. It's a term which was very popularized due to many factors. Like one of the factor is like it's opposite to narrow intelligence, right? General intelligence is of course to narrow intelligence. Like when there were artificial intelligence specific, on specific things, like for example checkers or even chess, where it can perform better than human, but those were like people were like, yeah, it can do that thing, but human are more generalized. It's narrow, right? So then the idea of generalized intelligence actually came, and the thing about general intelligence is we need to understand how generalization works in human, because we are comparing to something, and generalization, for example, of course AI has too much knowledge than us, and we have very less knowledge, so it's like even harder for us to use the extent to how AI works, right? That is a limitation on that part, because of our communication, right? We are not providing enough context, but with providing enough context, there are things like AI actually can't do really well. Like, of course, if you tell it to generate a very good code, it can give you a very good front end with back end flow. But if you tell that there are some bugs which going on, yeah, it might fix the bug. Then you were saying like again there is some bugs, and you just see that there another bug appears due to that. So even though it is that much knowledgeable, it don't seems like it doing much of the work. It don't just seem like it that how this thing can make this mistake, right? So to a certain degree it might not be a generalized, which is not, because it's not artificial general intelligence yet. We are heading towards that future, but right now what I'm coming at, that there are few way we can reach AGI, and generalize is something, human term, very humanly thing. So for us the generalization part is very different. Like if you see AI, it's very harder to train. Like if you, for example, to a human normal, a human can see, and like within 10 hours of seeing how something works, they might actually get to do it, probably 7 hours or something, right? Like if you tell a 15-year-old kid how to ride a bike, he will within few hours instead of a AI who is trying to learn. So there are certain things which is due to our senses as well, but it might also be that our neurons actually contain and process much more information than we currently understand. So yeah, it is also a very good possibility. The entire goal of neural network is trying to replicate how a human brain works, and of course GPU is not a very good architecture at it either. Like there are better architecture like which Cerebras did, or even Google's TPU tensor processors, or even Lambda's LPU, right? But what I mean is that yeah, it might be one of the case, and there might be another case that somehow the things in evolution gave us a certain ability, so it's physically possible to teach a machine, right? So learning a machine, so there might be a few things AGI comes, and the idea of AGI might be one is like a building super intelligence who can actually able to do anything. Then there are another thing that yeah, it might not be able to do another thing, but the learning process, that due to which humans evolve that much, just because of the learning process, right? We learn too fast compared to any other being, but only the limitation we have is the language, which I'm going to be coming at. But because we can learn so fast, so that's why we just have that generalization. And if we can teach the AI somehow how to learn that part itself, then I personally do think it is a way of reaching artificial general intelligence, right? um, yeah, that's one part of it. I mean, that's the second point. First one is like model is inherently capable of that, and like it can figure out how to learn in a better architecture way if it knows everything, right? So the first way also implies that the second way occurs, but the second way also make like the initial first step instead of the first one. Like the second way I talked about is most like can be the stepping stone of AGI or something, which we perceive. The limitation which happens on the human brain, that yeah, human might be so complicated, the neurons is far more denser and much more information, what should I say, dense, process dense, till which we don't understand at this point right now, and how we're interlinked with our whole physical body on touching senses and receiving those senses and processing inside our brain in multiple different parts, processing multiple information, multiple emotions. Like I just heard from Ilya on different podcast that there was a guy who was there is a part of the brain which processes emotions basically, right? And that part actually got damaged due to stroke or something in an accident. And on that, he actually like, of course he can try to replicate certain things, but he can't experience the emotion we do. And that somehow make him more bad at taking decision, be it financial decision, be it relationship decision. So these things actually, you might think that emotion plays a downgrade road on making us understand, but I think emotion also plays a very up role, because it is something evolution has given us, and it helps in a certain way to a human. And the main better thing AI have now compared to human is actually connection, to be honest. And that's what my main point is, create more connection. The reason I'm talking about that, it's the single most thing AI is good at it, even though they might not have the best architecture, not have the evolutionary genes. Yeah, the research going on, probably fast forwarding thousands of years in few seconds, right? But the point is not, it's not that accurate. And another point is that even though it is computing in that way, we're still a little bit superior in certain sense. But connection is one of the things which they are very good at, because they can connect with any computers, like a server, right? So it's just connected to everything, 280 GPUs, 5,000 GPUs, can even 100,000 GPUs connected together to train a certain thing. And if it's getting trained a single time, everybody remembers. But in experience, it just limits in our biology that why we reproduce essentially is to continuation of genes, right? Because we know we cannot be immortal, and the only way better is like replication. We cannot duplicate ourselves, and the evolution shows us a reproductive way. And of course, but the breakthrough actually happened from past animals to the humans, I would say, just because of the communication. Because of initially it was of course endocannabinoids, connecting people to unite and kill mammoth or certain things. And then the connection got little bit stronger, hands languages, talking languages, and after a very long time, written languages as well. Then information dense, then sending letters to different people, different places. Then the internet revolution, information, abundance, the abundance of information. And of course we're finding out the side effect of a thing which became scarcity to abundant too quickly. We saw it happens with food, right? Where an industrial process learned to engineer itself that bypasses our natural signals, feeding us what we crave instead of what we need. But anyway, so my entire point was connection, and connection is one thing. So it's all about the information bandwidth we can share. Right now, like 300 years ago, to send something from India to US, for example, you need to probably use a boat, or pay a lot of money to people who are shipping something, or maybe a bird can do that. I'm not sure, like on that amount of distance, and the migration period of the birds, etc. But yeah, what I meant to that, the information bandwidth to share was very limited. But after a certain point, internet came. There was very like it was like we can share text. Right now, after a certain point, like we can share photos, like legit, then videos. Then we came to a point where we can do real-time videos with people. That amount of information is combining, and other person is able to see it, how complicated it is. And that information then people like Elon Musk, and yeah, investing on things like Neuralink. And what it essentially do is brain chip, right? It's just connected brain with right now machines, but somehow connecting to the whole consciousness, I would say. Like in far future, like mind can be working as compute. Like I'm not just talking about artificial intelligence, I'm also talking about uploaded intelligence, but not in a bad way like Pantheon shows us, but might be in a good way. So we are more connected. Of course, there might be no such thing as privacy, but the infrastructure of privacy will be entirely different, because we are going to evolve from that mindset, because world changes too fast, right? So yeah, I think there are multiple ways AI can come, and we should be building connections, not because of the human species, because I'm not that biased on the human species itself, but I believe that extinction of any species will, like specifically in a deteriorating manner, can actually skip certain things. And I don't know where I actually want to cut this video off. I have too many things to share on RLHF, on reinforcement learning through AI feedbacks, basically, right? How this processes works, and every other shit. Like I can talk about so on and so forth for quite a while, but not too much like I'm into consciousness or psychedelic or automation, something like that, right? But right now, what entire goal of Vibe Life, I'm planning to create a company called Vibe Life which automates everything. So what I essentially wanted, create an automation which replicates how a human thinks, how a subject matter expert thinks in a certain way. So that's my entire goal was. But I think we can reach out to sort of AGI research lab, that we are just trying to automate how a human thinks. So how subject matter experts go on to a very logical structured way to do a certain type of things. And when you have multiple structure of subject matter experts, replication of subject matter experts, then we can probably train an AI on the system we build, on how we build. Like, we just don't come up with random ideas. We talk with subject matter experts, we learn from other courses if we don't have some experts in certain things, and based on that courses, based on that detailed inspection, of course it is a very one-sided way, but we are taking from the best, right? And it's result oriented, and also it's just not that we're only doing for one. Like, we try to create multiple variation, multiple structure of it, so it's pretty flexible in a certain sense. Okay, so probably I can show my company as a AI research lab who trying to solve AGI in a practical manner, who just build fast. And yeah, that's how I think it is. And let me know. It's already been 15 minutes. I was not entirely sure that I can even yap for continuous 15 minutes, but yeah, it's already been 16. And bye, peace.